Hi, everyone. It's Angie Nuttle. Welcome to the Purple Life Community Podcast. Today, I'm talking with Victoria Reid, and this conversation was fun. It was real, but at the same time, very deeply serious. So, there's a language that women who have experienced narcissistic abuse just seem to understand in each other. And you're going to hear that connection between Victoria and myself throughout this conversation today. Victoria shares her story of walking through narcissistic abuse, finding the courage to leave, and ultimately reclaiming her identity and purpose. And says if her story encourages you, like this episode and subscribe to the Purple Life Community Podcast so we can help this message reach another woman who needs it. Let's get into my conversation with Victoria Reid. Hi, everybody. It's Angie Nuttle with the Purple Life Community Podcast. I have a wonderful guest with me here today. You're going to want to hear her story. It's incredible. You're going to relate to it, and you are going to gain some wisdom from this young lady right here. So, Victoria Reid, it is so wonderful to have you on our podcast today.
Thank you, Angie. I appreciate the invitation.
So tell everybody who you are.
Absolutely. So, as Angie mentioned, I am Victoria, and by day, I am a corporate HR leader in a large company here locally. And I most recently, last year, became a certified coach for women who have experienced and are healing from narcissistic abuse and toxic relational patterns.
Yes, and you are like the perfect coaching client. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm actually a business coach. And so I've been working with Victoria. You started the business a year ago.
Yes.
And so now we've been putting together your website, and you started the coaching business and then built all the stuff afterwards.
Yes. We call it putting the wheels on the bus as we're driving.
Right.
So
That's right. But you knew that this was a calling for you.
for sure. This is definitely, I tell people, this is my kingdom assignment,
Yeah.
at least for the time being. I know, God has many things for us to do, but this is for sure a seed that he planted in me.
Yeah. So during the day, you're in the HR space, and that's a whole different world
It is.
than coaching. Yeah, coaching.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I coach business leaders, which it's a little more, sometimes it's actually a little more like consulting versus coaching.
Right.
There's kind of a difference there, but different topics for sure. But what my HR experience has taught me is active listening, right?
Yeah.
Which is critical when you're coaching individuals and just holding space for people.
Yeah.
And I'm high in empathy from that standpoint. And so I think that who I am naturally and then how my career has shaped me helps me to lean easily into the coaching world. Yeah.
So I'm sure that when you were 5 years old, you weren't thinking, hey, I want to grow up and become a coach for women who have been going through narcissistic abuse.
No, I actually wanted to be Vanna White because I loved her dresses. I was very, and still am, into glam. So that was my career dream at the time.
Okay, so maybe that one kind of got pushed to the side. Right.
There's only one Vanna.
Oh, goodness. All right. So as with all women, we want to live in purpose and intention. And
Absolutely.
there is a reason why you ended up going into this area of expertise as a coach for women who are going through these kinds of relationships. So I know it's challenging to talk about this, but you actually went through a narcissistic relationship.
Yes.
Yeah. So why don't you just start and tell us about that life that happened to you?
Absolutely. So we have a rather long story, but I'll make it short. But my ex-husband and I were together since we were 13. So we met in middle school, and you kind of have like the high school love crush, like puppy love, that kind of thing. And we got married when we were 26, 27 years old. And I'll say that while we had our what I would call maybe normal communication issues. At least that's what I felt they were at that time, right?
Mhm.
Hindsight is always 2020. Not too long after we got married and moved away, um, things started shifting a
Mhm.
bit. And I had no idea. I mean, honestly, the word narcissist was not even on my radar.
Right.
Even emotional abuse, like that type of thing. But how it showed up was, not feeling heard,
Mhm.
feeling like you're questioning your reality, right? Because it's like, hey, I'm bringing something to your attention, to his attention. And it's like, no, I didn't say that, or I didn't mean it like that.
Mhm.
And then it escalated rather quickly into what we would know as verbal abuse and just kind of in this pattern. And again, I'm trying to be careful in how I say it because I don't want to speak too much from hindsight because I didn't know, I didn't have the language for it.
Right.
Right. And that is one of the reasons why I started and launched Rise and Reclaim. But anyway, kind of getting back to my story. So I thought, I was like, you know what? Because I'm a doer. I'm someone who, I took my marriage vows very seriously. And I felt like I really loved him. We had a lot of history. I was like, we need to go to marriage therapy because
Yeah.
I'm like, we need to figure this out so we can make it and can grow. And sometimes he would agree, sometimes he wouldn't. And nothing was working. The only thing that probably caused it to work that long, we were married almost 7 years, is because I completely abandoned myself and I allowed my identity to be wrapped up into him. And just you're anyone who's experienced narcissistic abuse or just any type of emotional abuse in general, you realize that the only peace is when you don't stir the pot. There's certain topics that trigger them, so you avoid and you tiptoe. And it is a miserable way to live.
Yeah.
And so I still didn't know that I was dealing with that. I started individual therapy for myself. I'm a strong proponent of that. I always say Jesus and therapy because they do work and
Yeah.
it is both are needed. And I thought it was work stress. And like I took FMLA at work because I felt like, Angie, I remember telling someone really close to me, I felt like I was cracking
Yeah.
and I couldn't hold myself together. And you all don't know me, but I am the oldest daughter, the only daughter. I am used to getting things done. I am the responsible one. I am the one who plans and does everything. And no matter what, I'm going to hold it together. And I just felt like I couldn't anymore. And so I started talking to my previous therapist, my first therapist. And as we were talking, she was like, I think you have some marital issues going on. That seems to be driving your stress and your angst. And so I convinced him, it was more of a threat because I'm like, at this point,
You're going.
right. It's like, I don't know how else this is going to work out, but we need a third party to like intervene. And so when he was in one of his good moods, which now we know with narcissists, they do this when they see that they're starting to lose control and they'll yield to what you want to do, but only be for a certain amount of time.
Right.
And so she talked to us for a few sessions and then she asked to speak to him alone, like an individual session. At first, he resisted, of course. He finally met with her and she followed up with me and she's like, Victoria, I talked to him and he really hits every box when it comes to narcissistic traits. She was like, he tried everything from the charm and then you saw the flashes of they call it the narcissistic anger, like that type of thing when you're kind of onto them. And to give a little context, my first therapist was not only a PhD psychiatrist, but she was an ordained minister. And so she had that spiritual discernment on top of the natural world's knowledge and education to really be able to guide me through that. And that is when I was like, oh, narcissist, what's that? And so I started to look into that and I was like, well, I've been dealing with all the signs of emotional abuse, etc. And yeah, I continue to get stronger. I continue to do my individual therapy sessions. And that is what honestly helped me get to the point where I could leave.
Yeah.
Finally, because I tried in my mind many times before.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that? But we all know like everyone's situation is different. So I never judge women that have not left or are scared about leaving, because everyone's situation is unique. And I'll say everything's in God's timing. But
Yes.
my reason for not leaving earlier, one of the reasons was we lived in a very high cost city in Boston. And I was like, I can't afford to live by myself, and I don't have family out here, like no support. So God in his sovereignty, he brought us back to the Indianapolis area.
Praise God for
Yes.
that.
Yeah. For many reasons. I mean, everything, like, oh my gosh, there's so many pieces of that story that I could tell and lean into. But for time's sake, anyway, I continued, like I said, getting stronger through individual therapy. And I started planning because, again, that's just me. I'm type A, I'm a planner.
Yeah.
And I knew the more I was getting stronger, the more God was really just like opening my eyes and lifting the fog a bit. I was like, oh no, I don't have to, and I will not deal with this anymore.
Right.
And so I decided that I needed space, and I packed me and my little shipku up and my carry-on. And I just needed, honestly, I needed fresh air. I was like, I'm going to go to a hotel and just stay for a couple of nights. I left him a note. You know, he was away working in the office. And I just wanted to clear my head, Angie, because it was such at that time, I could feel the spiritual darkness in our home, the weight, right? Because when someone fully gives them over to that type of thing, and I truly believe that narcissism is rooted in the dark kingdom.
Yes.
Spiritual, it is very much Lucifer.
Spiritual wickedness in high places.
Yes, 100%. And I could feel it. And I had many different experiences in that home as well that confirmed that. And so his behavior when I left confirmed that I should not go back, right? Just the way that he conducted himself from that standpoint. Never, and I just want to make this very clear, he never physically attacked me.
Right.
Like, I just don't, I just want to make that very clear. But there are other ways where someone shows that they're not really stable, from that standpoint. And
he assaulted you emotionally and spiritually.
100%. Yeah. We know that what is life and death is in the power of the tongue, and 100%. Those verbal abuse and that type of thing, it is like death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Right.
And you don't even realize it until you are gushing blood.
Yeah.
And you're like, why do I feel like this? Why do I think this way about myself?
Well, it's not even that. I mean, just if I kind of sum up some key points about your story, and I do want to hear the rest of the story, and we can take all the time that we want.
I'm trying to speed through because I'm like, I know.
Wow, don't speed through. Don't speed through. Yeah. Some of the things that you were talking about, this is somebody that you've been with since you were a kid.
Yeah.
And you grew up together. Something shifted when you got married. It's just like, and
it was before. Definitely things before.
Yeah.
In hindsight.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what were some of the red flags that you saw?
Well, here's the thing, and I'm going to try to explain this the best way possible, is I'll just use the word excuse, was his mental health. It was always, I'm depressed, I'm not sleeping, I have insomnia, all of these things. And so I would attribute the shifts in his mood, or I'm stressed with work, right? Like that kind of thing, to his mental health. And so and I think I know he knew this because he knew that version of me. I'll say that version of me very well. My empathy and wanting to be like, oh, well, what can I do? Yeah, so I'm the one doing research and I'm getting books, how to help someone through depression and how to, all of these things. All the while I'm allowing the behavior towards me, which now I know that it doesn't matter what kind of mental health challenge someone has, that does not give them the right to speak to you any kind of way and treat you any kind of way. And most people who are accountable will not, right? Because that has nothing to do with mental health. That's a whole separate issue. And so that started building up before we were even married.
Yeah.
I would say probably late undergrad time frame, like probably maybe our last year in college. And yeah.
So, so red flag being the mental health, and this is all happening because were there other?
Blaming me for his behavior. I would
Okay,
say
so
so
blame
public,
shifting.
like the
Yeah.
blame shifting, right? The
Mhm.
projecting. Well, I wouldn't say that if you hadn't done X, Y, and
Right.
Z, or I don't like it when you talk about this or ask me this question. And so now I have, now I'm going to make this whole day horrible. I mean, I can't count on how many hands where we would go on vacation or trips together ruined. We'd
Yeah.
have to leave early, or it was something where I used to call them tantrums.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's what it is. I'm like, this is like, it's so crazy when I look back on it,
Yeah.
like,
Well, I mean, narcissists,
Woo.
they have arrested development. They
100%.
are like trapped. They may be looking like a grown up, but inside they're trapped like a
toddlers, maybe.
yeah.
Seriously, from an emotional, and I would say,
Yeah,
I don't
toddlers
even,
and preteens.
I know, I'm like, I don't even want to insult my toddler niece. I don't even think she would behave like that. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you still go forward with getting married. So, I mean,
Yes.
one of the things that narcissists do, they really target women who are the women who are going to go above and beyond, and they're the problem solvers, the responsible ones, and the loyal ones. And the women who are dealing with the narcissist, they tend to change their life and flex around that other person.
100%.
And so totally get it when you say, man, I lost myself. I felt like I was cracking up. It's like walking in the door and you have to leave 95% of yourself behind in order to function in that kind of dysfunction.
Yes.
So you got married and more behavior started showing up. So I was hearing some gaslighting
Yes.
go on, which is classic narcissists. They like to just gaslight all over you.
Yes. Yeah. Angie, I just want to touch on something quick because the Holy Spirit has really revealed a lot to me along my healing journey. And just for the audience's context, so I have been divorced. Our divorce was finalized in April 2024. So I'm a couple of years past the initial part. And so I've had a lot of time to work through things, not saying that I have arrived, so to speak, but
well, you already have a tremendous amount of wisdom. And
I appreciate
it's
that.
not very often that even, the women in our audience, they're actually still in the relationship and struggling, and have been, some of them, I mean, we had a lady recently, she's been in a narcissistic relationship for 40 years. I mean, could you imagine?
I've heard
Yeah.
it. That's not I've had women come up to me at various events and they'll say, I just left and it's like 25 years.
Yeah.
Now, I will say they all had children. So that is one thing.
Yeah.
Ladies, he and I agreed to live what is called the DINK life, double income, no kids. So outside of my dog, I didn't have that level of responsibility. So I can probably say that maybe I would not have left, at least maybe, I don't know, I don't want to speculate, but children I know they add a different weight, different responsibility.
Yeah. And I want to add to that there's no condemnation.
Correct.
Towards that. I mean, there are reasons why you might decide to say, so we're not advocating one way or the other. It's different for every person.
Absolutely.
But it's always fascinating for anyone who's ever been in this type of relationship. How does she escape? What does she do? Yeah. So once you realize, okay, this is going on and I don't have to tolerate this, you went and you got help, which was excellent. The awesome thing is that you had a therapist who recognized that this was a narcissistic situation. Mm-hmm. And that is a blessing, because a lot of times you have people, lay people, people in churches who say, well, you just gotta love him more. Yeah. You just gotta
like, oh, they haven't hit you? Better say. I mean, that's like, God forbid we get to the point of violence before we can do that.
I mean, it was right in my mind. That's where they took me.
I know. That's a very good point. And so I think there was a previous point that you made that I wanted to talk about briefly, but it escapes me.
We were talking about gaslighting, and then
It was something you had just said. Okay, that's okay. We'll come back around.
yeah.
But yeah.
So you got to the point we were talking about the counselor, that you had got counseling. Yeah.
So kind of going back, so it was not being very transparent, ladies, it was not a clean break for me. And this is not uncommon when you have been in the cycle of abuse for a long time or even a short time from that standpoint. And so I still was not 100% sure I was actually going to leave when I was in the hotel room, but I knew that I couldn't go back and I didn't want to live with him. Whatever that looked like, I needed a break. And so I stayed with my parents for a bit. And I'm telling you, I was probably in the hotel for about 4 days because I just need to process. And then I went to stay with my parents because he forced me into having that conversation, which is a whole other thing about them taking your power and your choice away.
Yeah.
And so I had to tell them things that they had no idea about, quite frankly. And
how did they react?
my parents were deeply concerned. I think like your average person, especially probably my parents' generation, they're like, narcissist, like what's that? It's like, what have you been done? Because again, like they've known him since he was 13.
Yeah.
Right. Our families know each other, and he is someone who probably one would classify as a covert type. And so extremely intelligent, excellent job, very driven, like comes across very charming. And so he knew how to wear the mask and he also knew when to take it off.
Yeah.
And so my parents were blindsided by it. But they were very supportive and of me, which I'm thankful for. And, I had started very quickly because I go into like action mode. That's just me, how I deal with things.
Yeah.
And I started looking for apartments, and it was the apartment I lived like when I first, not far after I moved out of my parents' house when I was in my 20s. And it was a safe space for me. I remember that.
Yeah.
And so literally someone had just moved out, and and it was literally the apartment next to the apartment that I lived in when I was there. Like I lived in 3A, I moved into 3B. Like it was insane. It was like I knew God had that
was the Lord for
me because it was such a quick turnaround. And so at this point, he's in, what can I do to get you back? There, it's that cycle, right? The love bombing. And I was like, listen, I need space. I said, maybe we can work this out, but I'm going to live by myself. And of course, I didn't know what that looked like. And it's not desirable. Like, you don't want to live separate from your husband. I'm the kind of person where I'm all in or I'm out. Right. And so I laughed because but I fasted, I was like, okay, I'm going to go on a fast. I'm like, Lord, if we're supposed to be together, like, I need you to confirm this. And if not, to confirm it. And at the end of this 7-day, I think it was about a 7-day fast, not like no food, guys. It was, I was eating dinner and drinking water, but
we'll put a disclaimer.
Like, please do not starve it. Like, no.
You can starve yourself if you want to, but we're not telling that you have to.
Like, I did not do that. And at the end of that fast, I felt like in my mind that God wanted me to stay with him, but to work through it. But that was my heart. Now I know like that was my human attachment and just like that kind of thing. Because I go back and the Holy Spirit reveals something to me. I make notes in my phone during my prayer time when I believe that I've heard the Holy Spirit talking to me. And I was scrolling back one day, and this was September of 2021. I moved out in June of 2023. I had typed in my phone, release him. And at that time, I thought God was telling me to forgive him and to just move, like, continue to be the prayerful wife, praying for his salvation and just all the things. But God was like, no, that's when I said, go.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, chills, right?
Yeah.
And I'm told at this time I have a new therapist because my first therapist was ill. She had cancer. I had to stop practicing. And my second therapist was like, okay, keep your eyes open. You know, we were still meeting bi-weekly, maybe even weekly at that point in time. And I did, because again, God was continuing to reveal things, and it didn't take long. The mask came off.
Yeah.
And so at that point in time, so this was probably early September. So we're talking like mid-June to early September. He's like coming over my apartment, you know, when I allow him. He's trying to work through things, like supposedly, which, as a side note, because this is hilarious, I went to pick up something at our house that we shared, and he was like, I was sobbing, you know, as I was bringing my clothes. So I had the master bedroom closet, which was like a huge walk-in, and his clothes were in our other two spare bedrooms. And he was like, I was just sobbing, you know, as I was bringing my clothes over. And in hindsight, I'm like, you already moved your clothes into my closet less than a week after I moved out, but yet you were hoping I would come back home. Those two things don't add up. But it's the performative tears that we're probably very familiar with narcissists.
Yeah. On you.
It's Emmy. It's Emmy deserving. Right. I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times he was able to get me with those tears. And so I was like, I'm gonna go no contact. I just told him, I was like, hey, I was like, I really need to think about some things. I was like, I will contact you when I'm ready to talk. Please respect my boundaries, right? Yeah. Because that is something, ladies, that we know, that people that have those characteristics, that they do not respect your boundaries at all. Matter of fact, at least he delighted in tap dancing on mine, you know, and would say so. And so he texted me. My therapist was like, if he texts you, he was like, you know, so he texted me one day. I was coming back from a work trip. I didn't respond. It was like, thinking about you. It's just something, and I'm like, no response.
I'm not thinking about you right
now. So stay strong, ladies. Those of you in no contact. And then, because I told him, I was like, I'll reach out to you around Thanksgiving, like around that time. And do you not know, the day after Thanksgiving, I get this long text from him, basically demanding that I give him an answer, demanding that, I mean, it was just very like a whole different spin. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
So then I knew that I had to make that difficult choice. And it was extremely hard because, I mean, I am 37. So we spent 21 years of my life together. That's a lot of
That's a lot.
It's enmeshment, you know, at that point. And so, and then also there's shame, right? Like that was something that took me some time in my journey to shed, because we internalize their behavior towards us.
Yeah.
And it's the people that look at you with that cloud of doubt in their eyes because they've never seen that side of him, right? And so you're just like, man, who can I trust? And yeah, so I got the courage, again, with the help of my therapist, January 2024. I was like, yeah, you know, I'm going to move on from our marriage, and the rest is history.
How was he through the divorce?
So I'm thankful, my mom actually advised me to hire a lawyer, an attorney, a divorce attorney. I wasn't going to, because I was like, oh, this is simple. Again, no child care agreements needed. The home we were in, we were renting. So there was no
that's a blessing. Okay.
His stuff is his stuff, like his vehicle, my vehicle was my vehicle, like that kind of thing. No shared debts. And so I was like, this is going to be easy peasy. But I knew, because I don't want to say was because he's alive, but his behavior was he could speak very cruel. Like that was his thing. And he would admit it. He's like, I know I use my tongue to be destructive, like as a sword, like that kind of thing. So he's very aware of his behavior. It's the other thing, ladies, I tell people, like, people with these traits, they know exactly what they're doing. 100%. And some are more calculating than others. And
it's a chess game.
100%. Yeah. And they are 10 steps ahead of you. Like, because you're not even playing the same game. Like you have way different motives. Right. And it's hard to understand because you don't think like that. And you wouldn't treat a person like that. So, you know, I hired an attorney because when I had the call with him to tell him I was divorcing, like gonna file for divorce, he tried to flip the script and like bait me in by saying some things. And through my, again, therapy, I knew those tricks and I just like, okay. Like you kind of gray rock, you don't give a reaction because it feeds what they want.
Yeah.
And so it was hard. I'm going to say I had a lot of anxiety about it. And my lawyer was like, oh, like she was like, this man. Whatever interaction she was having with him and the issues, like she was kind of keeping me a little abreast, but like she helped me advocate for myself a lot in that divorce. And so I will always shout out to Nakina Kane. If you ever need a divorce or family attorney, she's amazing. And so, yeah, she helped me through that. And I had blocked him anyway on like my phone, like both of his numbers, because I was just I had so much anxiety around being berated and just like, I just was like, I can't handle that. I was in too fragile of a state. And my final email was like, yep, I'm going to transfer my money for the separation and get your own cell phone plan and don't want to hear from you again.
Yeah.
And he happily obliged because I'm sure he had already allegedly moved on, which that tells you a whole other thing, whether it's true or not, because they're pathological liars as well. So.
Well, and it's amazing. This is an amazing story because, I mean, you did something that a lot of women just dream about doing, about actually exiting out of this kind of, this kind of relationship. And it's tough. It is. And especially, and the longer that you go in this type of relationship, the more difficult it is because there's really so much that you have to suppress in order to survive. And that's really, that's where you lose yourself.
I'm glad you said the word suppress, like, and because it made me think of internalize, because my physical health was it. So not just my mental health.
Yeah.
I mean, Angie, I don't know if many women are maybe as in tune, like some of the things that we're dealing with health-wise, especially if you're in that kind of, I hate to use the word relationship, but that kind of cycle, out of nowhere, my blood pressure, and I always had perfect, like, what is it, 120/70?
Yeah.
One day I went to the doctor, this is back when they required COVID tests before, whatever, and they took my blood pressure, it was like 170/110.
Wow.
And they were like, we can't let you leave. I'm like, why? They're like, your blood pressure is out of control. And like, I was having inflammatory issues.
Well, the stress from it is no joke.
Yeah.
And and a lot of women, I mean, complain of especially digestive issues.
Yes, I've heard.
Yeah. I mean, women who don't have any breast cancer in their family popping up.
It's that serious.
Yeah, it is.
I have to get and I don't wear it anymore because I figured out what it was from, but I had a retainer because I was clenching. I guess when I was asleep, I was clenching my jaw so tight. It was grinding my bottom teeth. My dentist was like, you grind your teeth? I was like, no, I don't. She was like, yeah, you did. So I had a retainer and I never had that issue before.
Right.
Legitimately. So, yeah.
Wow. So this is a pretty powerful story. And I hope I hope that you're really enjoying listening to Victoria talk. So there's a lot of wisdom. You've gained a lot of wisdom beyond your years. And so that I know that because of that, and just by working with you as your business coach, you have so much to offer women who are going through this experience. I mean, you've been through a lot. You recognize what's happening, not just from a natural perspective, but from a spiritual perspective. And the truth is, I mean, the world has the DSM-5, the diagnostic manual with all the criteria, and that's all well and good. Yeah. But there is a spiritual criteria from the Bible that this is exactly what we're dealing with.
Yes.
It is a spiritual problem. And so you've got the wisdom, you've learned that, and you trust in God. 100%. So let's come fast forward to today.
Yes.
So here you are. You started your coaching business a year ago, and now you're really just kind of coming out.
Yeah.
Now.
I've been hiding, but that's a whole other story, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So, tell a little bit about the type of women that you have a tendency to coach. Who's
Yeah.
your person?
So yes, my person or who I believe that God is leading me towards from an audience standpoint is the Christian woman specifically. And I'm not closed off, of course, to coaching women that do not profess to be Christian, but because of the unique experience, I think it adds an extra layer. And as a matter of fact, I was reading somewhere, and I can't remember where it was, but that women who are Christian or in other religious affiliations, they stay on average 2 to 3 years longer in abusive relationships than women who are not, because they have the same things that especially towards the end really hindered me from filing for divorce. Is God's going to be disappointed in me? I'm breaking my marriage vows. Like, what are people going to say? Can I get remarried? Because all of the things that you hear, the rhetoric, and sometimes the misinterpretation sometimes of God's heart towards things like this. And so I can really understand women that struggle with that wrestle. And then just women in general who are realizing that they don't know what's on the other side, but they know that there's greater, right?
Yeah.
And that they still have a destiny, right? That God's spoken promise over their life is still there. You just have to take the step to grab it. Because one thing that I think is unique for me in my approach to coaching is I don't only focus on the healing process, but getting more into identity restoration.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Well, that's where the enemy
yes,
attacks. He wants to
100%.
just totally deflate that identity in Christ.
Yes. And when you don't know who you are, you tend to tolerate a lot, or you easily morph into what someone else wants you to be.
Yeah.
Right. And so your identity is also assigned to your purpose, right? Because if you think about it, right, God designed each of us intricately woven as how it's spoken. And when the enemy can muddy how we see ourselves, how we speak to ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, that's our foundation.
Yeah.
And so it's not just about healing, it's about coming back into knowledge of who you are as a daughter of the King and moving forward to change your legacy. So again, thinking about those that have children or want to have children, these cycles can continue if you are not aware that, and this is not saying that any of this is your fault, but there are things that I've learned about myself where I was an example of like people pleasing, right? Where that is something that is not a good thing to have, especially, and it's just learned behavior pre-marriage. Like a lot of this comes from things in our childhood, patterns and things that we may be comfortable with, but are not necessarily healthy. And it shows up in different ways as we become adults. And so that's why it's important to get to the root of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So how do people get in touch with you? I say people, but how do women get in touch with you?
So you can reach me at my website. So again, it's called Rise and Reclaim Coaching. My website is www.risereclaim-coaching.com. You can also reach me on social media. My Instagram and TikTok handles are the same. They're at Rising to Reclaim. And so through my social media, you can either access my website and my Instagram bio. I offer a free clarity consultation as well that you can book time with me. Because even if you're unsure of where to go, what your next step is, this is a time for us to talk and just for me to get an understanding of where you're at and if we can walk this journey together, right? Because you don't have to do it alone. And I'm telling you from experience, it is impossible to do it alone. So that's where you can reach me.
So go to the awesome website that you have.
Yes, thanks to Angie.
Go to the website. One of the things on the website, she's got a cool tool on there. It's absolutely free. So it's a workbook on wounds, healing from those wounds. So if you go and visit the website, you'll see there in the menu that she has that free workbook. You can download it.
Yes.
And
Yes, it's called hidden wounds. And that comes from the fact that, again, it's physical abuse is the extreme. The hidden wounds are the ones that aren't visible to the eye, but are still very much impactful and damaging. So, yeah.
All right. Well, Victoria, thank you for being on today.
Thank you, Angie. I appreciate, just having the opportunity to speak to you and to others as well. So,
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, just put a comment in your line that says amen or thank you, Victoria. So thank you for watching the Purple Life podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.